Can't lie, I'm a sucker for these late night Sunday videos. We can go more rogue than usual, it feels like. Some of our more interesting conversations erect themselves. So what should we talk about, huh? There isn't actually much I've got to say. I've got no theories, no agendas to push. So instead, let's have a discussion, huh? These are always healthy for the mind. Sunday was right, and the Tsarista, the Cryo Archon, is evil. Yep, that's where we're at. I can't wait to read David Johnson's hour-long response in the comments. That's going to be half the length of the script. That's always the highlight of my nights. Sunday, the greatest character in Honkai Star Rail history, and then the Tsarista, a dumb bitch who's trying to start a war because we don't know why. She was fine being the Archon and being subservient to Celestia right up until Conria. Then a light bulb seemingly switched off, and she's decided to walk the path of destruction, formed the Fatui, which, their crimes against the common folk aside, are here for the sole purpose of furthering her plot to throw the entire world itself into disarray. And disarray is sugarcoating it greatly. This is a war that could end the world, kill most, if not all, humans in the process, and for what? Keep in mind, guys, this is the second Cryo Archon, sure, but she should still be the same one from before Conria. Aside from Venti telling us he once knew the Tsarista and no longer.
I never thought that she would plot to steal another Archon's Gnosis. How should I put this? 500 years ago, I knew her well, but I can't say the same is true now. You see, a certain catastrophe happened 500 years ago, and after that, she cut off all ties with me.
There's also this in his character stories. Quotes, in contrast to these more canonical works, Venti's ballads tend to include bizarre adventures and acts of mischief, such as the time that Barbados pinched the Cryo Archon's scepter and replaced it with a Hilly Charles wooden club. What's a better way to show closeness with someone than to play a prank on them, huh? And what are the odds he was this close with two different Archons? Cryo Archons, no less. It's inconceivable, I dare say. However, this then raises an interesting question, which is, how uninformed was the Tsarista when she became the Cryo Archon? And what I mean by this is, look, we all know Celestia has a habit of correcting nations. This is nothing new. Conria wasn't the first, and they won't be the last. Putting aside the rationale for the correction of these nations, this is like the bare minimum amount of information about their actions. She must have known about this when she became the Archon, and if that's the case, then it seems unlikely the devastation of Conria was the sole reason she decided to go rogue. Now, if the opposite is true and she really has changed her position thanks to Conria, we have some problems. First off, why just her? While we've yet to meet the Pyro Archon, if Conria is what set her on this path, why is she then the only Archon to have been radicalized by this event, or even greatly affected? Well, other than the dead ones. It's hard to have a greater effect on your being than death. And for those going, oh, what about Raiden? Hey, look at what she did. Lock down the entire... Get the fuck out of here, bro, with that response. She wasn't the Archon. She wasn't privy to the details. She said it herself. She's no clue what's happened there. You know who was the Archon before her? Her twin Makoto. And you know what Makoto said about Conria?
Did you know what was about to happen in Conria? I had some sense of it. That place was not somewhere that any Archon could afford to ignore.
Thank you, Makoto. So again, I ask, what exactly did the Cryo Archon take issue with in Conria that left her specifically this scarred? The other problem with this is, if for some reason she's decided to band against Celestia purely because of Conria, then she's a traitor. Yeah, let's just call it what it is, fellas. You know what we call her around my parts? A turncoat, a hypocrite, a quisling. How is it she never had the fucking balls to challenge the Divine when she was a part of them? She became the Archon, chose to become it. Mind you, Son of the Sky, my nigga, God King Deshret rejected becoming an Archon. Why? Because he stood on business. And whether or not I agree with him, at the end of the day, he was offered a divine gift, turned that shit down, and did things his own way to free this world from the heavens. The Tsarista, however, became the Archon. Then all of a sudden, Conria arrives and she's... A turncoats, I tell you. No one forced her to become the Archon. You're not a Jiria, nigga. You're not special. Sit down, bitch. You're fulfilling a role. A role, nigga. That's all you are. And for those reasoning, maybe she simply didn't know a lot about Celestia. Guys, Fosolors was Archon for like 3 seconds, and she knew the Heavenly Principles stole the powers of the Sovereigns. Where the fuck would she even have found this information? That shit wasn't written in no books. We only found out about it because a Sovereign told us, and given Nervalet's only met Fosolors for the first time in this very moment, he didn't tell her, so how'd she find this information out? So we can only chalk this up to divine knowledge, something the Tsarista, a god, surely must have had. Putting all this aside, let's hone in on her goals. She is someone who wants to, or you know what, let me just let the Cryo-Archon tell you what she wants, thanks to the Shivada gemstone. Quote, sorry, to also have you shoulder the grievances of the world. Since you could endure my bitter colds, you must have the desire to burn. Then burn away the old world for me. And now make no mistake, my friends, this act of burning away the old world is an act of rebellion.
Her followers hope only to be on her side when the day of her rebellion against the divine comes at last.
That will incite a war.
But what if the bigger war comes to pass? What then?
If it cannot be avoided, then I will have no choice but to fight.
And for what, my friends? What is the end goal to all of this? To simply dethrone the current rulers? Seize authority from the gods?
In the name of Her Majesty the Tsarista, we will seize authority from the gods.
Why? Let's assume it's because of fate. The Heavenly Principles are currently the ones who control fate, and given their callous nature, should no longer be allowed to. Let's assume this is the Fatui's position. So for now, let's put that topic on hold and discuss dear old Sunday. On a Sunday, no less. For those who never played Star Rail, Sunday is a gentle-looking feller who only wanted the best for everyone, and the way he went about doing this was to, I'm unbiased, was to force everyone into a beautiful dream where they would get to live their perfect lives, filled with happiness, warmth, and joy. Those with deformities would no longer have them. Those who were ill no longer were, and those who had friends would gain more. It was a perfect world, meant to shelter everyone, and for a brief moment an entire star system felt harmony. Why in a dream world, you might be wondering? Why don't I let Firefly explain it?
You see, everything is possible in this land of dreams. The nightmarish past will disperse and fade away like bubbles in water, and the future that you don't want to face will never come. Why do people choose to sleep? I think it's because they're afraid to wake up from the dream.
Sunday's goal was but a simple one. Happiness is not something that should belong only to the strong, but to everyone.
We must teach the weak how to live a happy life. And this life isn't some noble propriety that the upper crust preaches, but in definitive terms, a way of survival that belongs to everyone.
What a noble statement from a noble man with a noble goal. He wanted to eliminate all the hardships from the everyday person's life. Every day would be a Sunday. Firefly responds with an interesting question.
Awakening. Which means that this so-called paradise is still a dream. Stepping into this paradise means forsaking reality, correct? But in this supposed bliss, people won't have defeated their demons. The chance to overcome their tribulations would be forever lost to them. In other words, it is an escape.
Escapism, huh? Hear that little 8-year-old Timmy? You wanting to exist in a dream and live your perfect life due to you being deaf, blind, quadriplegic, stage 4 brain cancer, 87 strokes, 364 heart attacks, dropped on your head 8 times, robbed at gunpoint 9, shot 12, stabbed 13, had a nuke dropped on you. Is you just wanting to escape. Ain't that a bitch. Sunday continues to cook in this debate, 1v4 by the way, until the pendulum swings to the woke team, and Firefly says this.
But unlike you, I live for the self. From my perspective, individuals making choices for themselves is their birthright. The want to escape may be innate in the weak. But whether they are weak or not, it is not up to another to decide.
This is actually a good point, for which Sunday didn't really have a good response. The right of freedom to live one's life how they want, free from others' intervention, is a sacred one. I agree. At the end of the day, it's your life, and no one else's. You should have the choice to live it how you want, regardless of your current position in the metaphorical food chain. But it's an interesting word she used here. It's one's birthright to make this choice. If, in their eyes, Sunday's plan was inherently immoral because he was depriving people of the choice to live how they want to live, then how is the Tsarista any different? On Teyvat, humans currently live in a utopia, and the only times this utopia comes crashing down is when the irrigation of mankind goes sky high. Teyvat is quite literally a bubble world meant to shelter and safeguard humanity, with fates also playing a role in this protection. If the big problem with Sunday's plan was that he stripped people of the rights to make the choice, then this problem also exists with the Tsarista, who's trying to impose her own form of freedom on people who may not desire it. Ask the average person on Teyvat if they have a problem with the life they currently lead. They will tell you no. They love their families, their friends, the food, the environment. It's all perfect. Why risk it all in an uncertain global catastrophe, war, that will cause mass deaths, that will wreak havoc on all, just to venture outside the eggshell and come face to face with an uncertain abyss, an abyss our beloved sustainer of heavenly principles is always trying to keep at bay. Humanity is currently in what's essentially a dream world, protected at all times. And for those going, well, if what you're saying is what you believe, it's still a dream. Well, it's just not. But even if it was, my nigga Sunday said it best.
The dreamscape is indistinguishable from reality. Can it still be called an illusion?
And now some of you guys might be going, well, what's going on in Teyvat sounds really similar to Sunday's plan. And if you, doesnt, acknowledged Firefly raised a good point with regards to people having the freedom to live their life how they want, how do you reconcile the two? It's very simple, my friends. Heavenly Principle's plan lacks the one fatal flaw Sunday's had. If the problem with Sunday's plan was that people were stripped of the right to choose, something that, according to Firefly, is their birthright, then this problem doesn't exist in Teyvat. Because you see, unlike with Sunday, on Teyvat, the choice never existed. On Teyvat, humanity only exists because of the greatest being who ever lived. Humanity's only on this world because of the greatest being who ever lived. It was the sovereign of sovereigns who gave humanity life, and it's the sovereign of sovereigns' responsibility alone to make the choices for humanity as their overseer. Parts of Himiko's concern with Sunday's plan was in this new dream world. Sunday would be the lone one, a god, sitting atop his metaphorical throne. However, this is already happening in Teyvat, and it's not just any one or any god sitting atop a throne, it's the primordial one, a progenitor god, hailing from beyond the stars atop that throne. And so long as it remains there, every day will be Sunday.